A datil pepper is a close cousin to a habanero. It has a long history here in St. Augustine, and it is a sweet, heat, tropical flavor, and it kind of creeps up on you.
And it's distinguished from other peppers from the aspects of both heat, in other words, it's hot, and number two, its flavor. It has probably more flavor than almost any other hot pepper known to man.
Basically, you just walk through and lift. They don't, oops, I dropped one. They just lift.
Oh, wow.
Some of them are a little harder to get off than others.
So how do you know when they're ready?
They get firm. When they're not ready, they're a little bit squishy.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, when they're that size, you don't even think about picking them, but where'd it go? I know I dropped it.
Right there?
Yeah, I see it. They hide good too, so I mean, when you lift up the bush, there's always more underneath than what you saw. The bloom buds will come out on new growth, and then they'll grow over themselves, so they hide themselves. I was doing some work at the bottling plant, and he asked me if I knew how to grow datil peppers, and I said I got 3 plants at the house, and he said, well, I'll buy 10,000 pounds of peppers from you if you can grow 10,000 pounds of peppers, and that was 5 or 6 years ago, and I still haven't had 10,000 pounds in 1 year. I don't even think total I've had 10,000 pounds yet, but ever since then I've been selling peppers, so it's all been on my own. I get advice every once in a while from the technical college. Mm-hmm. Eddie up at the technical college. I take my seeds to him, he plants them, and then I buy the plants back from him. So.
Interesting.
They got a really nice greenhouse up there that would cost me a bunch of money to try to do it, so I might as well. He's already doing it, so I just take him the seeds. I think these plants are 4th generation of my seeds.
With the old timers, you know, we go around and they grow them in the 5-gallon buckets in their backyards, you know, and every local family has a pepper plant. If you took cruises around, you know, it's really interesting because they just cook with them. They add such flavor.
Donnie Gator, who used to be known as the datil pepper queen, told me about 20 years ago the only way you can grow a datil pepper is you need soil from St. Augustine, and the best way to grow them is you take a 5-gallon paint can, take your shotgun, blow a hole in the bottom of the paint bucket, fill it with soil, and that's how you grow a datil pepper.
The datil is synonymous, certainly in this county, with Minorcan culture and Minorcan genealogy. So people of Minorcan background feel very strongly that the datil pepper belongs to them. It's been in their genealogy for centuries, and that it was in fact part of the original Minorcans coming to the New World. So I think there is a close relationship of that particular pepper, that particular piece of produce, and Minorcan culture.
A Minorcan? That's a local person that was, their descendants traced back from, as I said earlier, that when Columbus said he'd gone far enough with everybody, he wasn't going any further, and he threw them off in New Smyrna, and they migrated and walked to St. Augustine and established themselves here.
Well, that's where a lot of folklore comes into play. One of the problems that we found out is that when you try to counteract history, it becomes difficult to get information that isn't related to the history that you're trying to counteract. So in our particular case, the datil pepper has been associated with Minorcans. Minorcans came here about 250 years or so ago in the 1700s as indentured servants with English settlers in New Smyrna. Their job was to set up farms. They were incorporated at the same time with slaves that William Turnbull had also brought over. They had rough living, and so they were growing indigo as a major crop. They were growing cane and other things. So they fled New Smyrna, which was British controlled, and went to St. Augustine, which was Spanish, which they felt comfortable. They had a pepper with them that they used in their cooking, and for that 200+ years now, it is a situation where folks feel that the Minorcans had had the pepper, and it had come from Minorca. It's an island off of Spain in the Mediterranean. However, Minorcans from the Isle of Minorca do not eat hot peppers, and in tracing where the species came from, it was obvious it had nothing to do with the Isle of Minorca, as it's been traced somewhere up the Amazon towards Bolivia. So it's more than likely that Spanish settlers, through their slave trade, found the pepper, brought it with them on ships because the slaves were in the bellies of ships. They could not cook. They used this for two reasons. One, more or less, getting an aphrodisiac like high out of the heat units, and the other thing, making food taste warm. So that combination more than likely did in fact go to New Smyrna, but who actually brought it there is unknown.
And you know, many are going to talk about where it came from, how it got here. There are a couple of different ideas about that, but the pepper's been here since the 1700s, and it's native to this area. So in North Carolina, if you find them in Kansas, wherever you find them, if it's a true datil pepper, it came from St. Augustine, Florida.
So I think it's that uniqueness of where it's come from, and the fact that datil pepper is specific and peculiar only to St. Johns County, St. Augustine.
It's kind of like a Vidalia onion. A true Vidalia onion's only grown in Vidalia, Georgia. A true datil pepper would have to be grown in St. Augustine to be considered a real datil pepper. Now other people will grow them. There's a guy in Tennessee that grows them, and they're grown in other places, but to people that are really old school traditionalists would say a real datil pepper is grown in St. Augustine. It's such a neat little community here, and people are so passionate about it, and people are going back, instead of this big homogenized kind of retail world, they want to kind of go back to a smaller scale, almost farmer's market way of looking at things, and want to try something that's maybe really good to a local area and say what's so good about it, and see if they can incorporate it into their everyday kind of cuisine. I think there's kind of a renaissance going on where people don't maybe want, you know, the McDonald's type thing. You want something that's got a little bit more care, something that has a story. People like stories, so I think maybe that has something to do with it too.
I work with a lot of the growers in this niche market with the datil peppers. You'll see some guys out front. Joe Hill, who's here, he grows the datil peppers. Chris Barnes, Wendy Rebels. There are a lot of small farms around here that grow the datil peppers for the bottling companies that are here locally.
He just lives right down the street. Hurricane Hot Sauce. The gentleman across the street from him owns Datil Q, which is, they make a couple different sauces. Neither of them make the same sauce. The Datil Q has a real dark, smoky, sweet barbecue sauce with dattles in it, and I guess Hurricane's is a little bit more of just a ketchup base. It's not quite as sweet. It's a little bit redder and thinner. Doesn't have as much smoke in it either.
So the product is grown here locally, it's bottled here locally, and it's distributed worldwide.
I tell everyone we're not just another hot sauce. We're 400 years of history. This pepper's been around a long time, and it's nice to share it with others and them to appreciate the flavor that comes from the datil.
Wash your hands after handling. That's #1 key. They will hurt you in spots you don't want to be hurt. Eat in moderation. Use them in moderation when cooking, because they're easy to get whatever you're eating too hot. So, and they're easy to grow, and they taste good.
Yeah, not too close. I guess. That's nice.
I can smell it.
That's really nice. I like that. I mean,
overly hot, but it's
no, it's not. You're right. It's not. I appreciate this.
I'll eat the whole thing.
That's awesome.
Just like a sweet pepper. I don't know what you're talking about. This thing isn't spicy at all.